Hey, everybody. It's Joel Marshall here, and we are here for another laugh therapy. This is a time where we're just going to forget about everything. We're going to just talk about some stupid stuff and just have a good time. And I got a message right at the top of the show from the bat. So here he is. Hello, I am the bat. Maybe you'll remember me from one of the earlier episodes. I am the bat that doesn't have any humans. I'm an advocate for pet bats because of all the free food. Since you've seen me, I have become a foster pet of this Joel Marshall who does the lunch therapy, but he has a lot of cats. And I can't really tolerate cats for too long, so he's going to try to find me something after all of this quarantining, hunkering is over. He's going to find me some nice humans that don't have cats or dogs, because dogs are tough. You know, like I said, bats are like little dogs with wings. They're like the little chihuahuas. But recently, something has come to my attention that I wanted to express to you. It's not an advertisement, but it's more of like a recommendation, a celebrity endorsement. And so I saw this on the Norm Macdonald show where he was talking about something that I think I'm going to just bring the clip in. Norm, take it away.
My only diet advice, and I try to tell everybody to eat this, it's very simple. You can get it in any store. The Impossible Bat. Well, it tastes exactly like bat, and it looks like bat, but it's not bat.
You see? So that is something, it's an alternative. Hopefully, Ozzy Osbourne is listening because I heard he bit the head off a bat once. And, anybody else who gets the craving for bat, you have now the Impossible Bat. It is like bat, tastes like bat, but it's not bat. You know, you like to eat the cow, so I understand that. I like to eat the blood of the cow. But as far as bats go, Impossible Bat. Listen to Norm Macdonald. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Go Bats. All right, I'm back. Okay, we're here at Lunch Therapy, and that was a little message from the bat. He's a good guy. He's living in my house right now. He doesn't really get along with the cats, but if you know somebody that wants a bat after this, they're very lovely pets. They're like little dogs, like he says, and they're just fun, and they just drink the extra blood. It's not a big deal. We don't even tend to like to drink the blood, and so if you have a little blood laying around, it's easy. It's cheaper than cats, that's for sure. We're in this space, and this is what we do at the beginning of the show is we take in a breath. And so I'd like it at the count of 3. If we all take in a breath, we're going to hold it, and then we're going to let it out. Okay? 1, 2, 3. That's good. Okay, we're going to do this again. Okay, one more time just to get everything relaxed because we're going to spend about a half an hour here talking about some stupid stuff so that we don't have to think about. We're not in denial. We're just taking a break. Just taking a break from the horrors of life. One more breath. And let it out. Todd Lee says, didn't you play a vampire bat with Montel Williams? And actually, I did. And I'm going to bring that on in another show later on this week. Montel Williams, super great guy. He was a great guy. But, we usually, when we meet somebody famous, we either say they're nice or they're assholes. I mean, that's basically the evaluation. You either say they're nice or they're assholes. We come back and report that. So nice is one of those things that has a very high value in our society, supposedly. But I found that sometimes being nice is just not so great. But I try. I try to be as nice as possible. Sometimes I fail. The other thing that we say when we meet famous people is like whether they were tall or short. Like I met Tom Cruise, he was really short. Or I met Tim Robbins, he was really tall. I've not met either of those people. I have a shirt today. That's a new thing, name dropping people that you've never met. I have a shirt today, and I'm going to recommend to all of you, if you're like in your 20s or something, take a few shirts that are really special to you and just put them in a box away from the moths and away from that stuff. Because then you can break out the shirt later on in life and be like, hey, look at my shirt. It still fits. This is special because it was something that I got in Alaska. My friends, Scott and Mike, they're from Montana, and they were my friends in Alaska, and this was their, I don't know, relatives' gold mining company in Juneau, Alaska. And on the back, that was the airline that his uncle flew for, and he'd fly those little bush planes. Anyway, still here. It's still here. So that's great. So that's a little bit of advice. Okay, one more breath. We're going to bring it in. And we're going to let it out. I've been thinking a lot lately. I was talking to my friend Matt Wright, who's somebody I went to school with from when I was a tiny, tiny person, maybe even like preschool. I don't know. He and I used to take piano lessons from Rick Steves. I don't know if you guys know who Rick Steves is, but he's this, travel guru. But at the time he was in college, he was teaching us piano at his dad's piano place. Wonderful piano player. I was always never practiced the piano. It was terrible. I just had no discipline whatsoever. I think it's because whenever I said I was going to go practice the piano, people were like, "What? We're playing basketball. You're going to practice the piano? What the hell? What are you doing?" Practicing the piano is probably the best thing you can do as a kid, right? Because it's something that you'll be able to do for the rest of your life. I didn't do it. So every week I'd have to go in there to Rick Steves and kind of apologize or make excuses about why I didn't practice. But he was a good guy. He was kind of a fun guy. He got a digital watch, and at the time it was like one of the first digital watches. You had to press a button to see the time. It was one of the first ones. So it had digital numbers, and he said, "Yeah, I went on a date last night, and I timed how long it took us to eat our salads." My guess even then was that there wasn't a second date. But, things worked out for Rick Steves anyway. So then that got us talking about, I like Weebly FM. Is this stand-up or storytelling? It's stand-up storytelling, yeah. So then Matt and I started talking about teachers and what it's like to be a teacher, because it's got to be hard to be a teacher, right? I mean, it's like this. Like I do this half an hour a day, and you got to get your thing together, and you got to know what you're gonna say, and then if you're a teacher, the audience isn't even drunk. So all day you're talking to these people, and it's just got to be hard. And I know Matt and I were kind of talking about some other stuff, but we were talking about how difficult it must have been to be a teacher. We had somebody in junior high school. There was a teacher named Mr. Brown and a teacher named Mr. Gay, and Mr. Gay was Brown and Mr. Brown was gay. And we always got their names confused. And one time, Mr. Brown came into class and his fly was down. And he didn't want to just, zip it up in front of us. So he decided to distract us, and he pointed out the window and was like, "Look at that!" And we all turned and looked out the window, and there just happened to be two dogs copulating out there. And so we looked out the window, we were like, ah. And then we turned back to him, and he was zipping up his fly, so it looked like he was touching himself. I want to say to Weebly FM, thanks so much for joining us from Twitch. This is so cool. So we're broadcasting to Twitch and Facebook and YouTube today. So you can join us any of those places, and we appreciate you being here. And I just want to say to Weebly, this is a stand-up. There is a lot of storytelling in my stand-up. It's a lot of times storytelling with a little humor involved. So Matt and I were then talking further, and we were like, yeah, I kind of think didn't treat teachers so well, TAs in particular. There was a TA in our science class, and she was an oceanographer. She had gone to school for oceanography, and she was just assisting a teacher learning how to teach, and she would show these slideshows of all this incredible oceanography stuff that she was doing. And one of them had a picture of her standing next to like a huge fish. And so we were all like, "Is that you?" And she's like, "Yeah, that was me. That is me." But then we continued. Every slide that she showed, we'd say, "Is that you? Is that you?" And there'd be like a picture of a jellyfish or a picture of a shark or a picture of a gorilla or whatever it was. And we'd always be like, in the most sincere way possible, "Is that you?" And we just, thought this was hilarious. It was really fun for us. But, back then it was fun to take the tweezers and stick them in the outlet and get shocked. Ding, 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 ding. I don't know if you ever did that. We were forced to call them forceps tweezers. I guess in science, tweezers are called forceps. But you don't stick them in the socket because it can kill you. Don't do that out there. Don't do that. So then we were thinking, well, what's the weird stuff the teachers said to us? What is the weird stuff they said? They said, so we were kind of like going back and forth. I remember a geometry teacher in high school, wonderful person. But one day, I guess she was having a bad day. And she said, "You boys, you're so obsessed with women's breasts. You wouldn't be so obsessed with them if you knew what was inside." That's just, I don't know. You could say that, I guess, about women or men even. You'd be like, you wouldn't be so obsessed with men if you had seen their intestines. But I just think she was having a bad day. But then there was other just weirder stuff. The home ec teacher apparently said mixed race babies are inferior. She told that to a class. And one of our most successful students to this day was sitting there, who was a mixed race student. He was like, yeah, I don't think so. Wait. He was like, wait, hold on a minute here. Yeah. So, sometimes teachers, they have an area of expertise, and then they start teaching outside of that area of expertise. And it's just like, it's like dangerous because you're already open to this, you're open to learn. You're like a sponge. And then all of a sudden they start telling you crap like that. It's crazy. And we had this other teacher, he showed Lawrence of Arabia. And he said to the class, I love this movie. You know why I love this movie? Because there are no women in it. Yeah. It's some crazy stuff. But, you just roll with it. You try not to take that stuff in. We had a great English teacher. Oh, wait, I just thought of this other thing, though, that I wanted to put in this, is that we had a TA. Looking back on this, we were like, oh, what about this? What about this? And there was like this teacher he would always say, "You never get a free lunch. You'll never get a free lunch." That was his favorite thing. And we would always give each other free lunches just to prove him wrong. And so he one time had the TA come in there and start teaching, and he got in an argument with one of the students. The student was heckling him, just kept heckling him. And then at some point, the student like pulled out a knife or something. I don't know, pulled out something. And then the teacher pulled out a gun and shot him, but it was like a cap gun, but he shot him. And we were not ready for this because we weren't really in on the joke. So it was kind of horrifying. Today it would be unforgivable. But in that day, he was just trying to prove a point about witnesses and crime scenes. So then we had a trial where we put people, in the witness stand to say what they saw. But, there are probably kids that still have nightmares about that. It was scary. But yeah, so that teacher, I don't know. He would always say some wacky stuff too. But we had this great teacher. His name was Mr. Evans. He was I think one of my favorite teachers. It's a toss-up between him and Frau Hall, which I could do a whole show on Frau Hall. She was awesome. But Mr. Evans used to he realized that we were not going to read books because we were just squirmy little high school kids. And so he would actually sit us down and read books to us in class, read an entire book so that we'd all have the experience of a book. And I could never do that, read a book and just have all these high school kids just sit there. Who could do that? But he had this incredible discipline. He had this incredible standard of discipline. Everybody had to be completely quiet while he was talking. And he was so funny and witty and cool that if anybody stepped out of line, Steve Blutoff did this a lot. He would step out of line, start heckling him. He would suddenly just like stop everything. You could hear a pin drop. And everybody would turn and look at Steve Blutoff and be like, what did you just do? This is our time with Mr. Evans, and you just ruined it. So I don't know. That's an art. Definitely something good for the clubs, right? I'm going to read one of these things here. Oh, I see Paul Williams is in the chat room from Texas. That's so great to see. He's on Facebook, so some of you can't see that. Some of you can't see Weebly FM, who's on Twitch, which is so great to have somebody from Twitch. She says it must be weird to do stand-up when there's no audible feedback to bounce off from. That is so true, Weebly. That is a very good point. But, we do it anyway because I know you guys are out there and it's fun. And, I have, Boney that can laugh for me. And I do that. That's fun. So I have like a few things that I can do to get some laughs, generate some laughs. But you know what? We're just having fun here. We're just trying to pass time, do some cool stuff. Yes. Heroica Film says, what about that dude that shows movies all day? Yeah. When I was in high school, there was a guy who was I think he was a stoner, right? I mean, it was Seattle. There were a lot of stoners around. And I think, so at the end of the year, he would have, his class was just all day showing of videos by the band The Who, which is a great band, by the way. But he would just sit there and pontificate about the videos all day, the last day of school. It might have even been the last week. I'm going to have to get some clarity on that. But he would just show the videos all day. And so the entire school just kind of all piled into that room for the last, day or last week or whatever. And he would eat chocolate. And he told us that the chocolate made him high. But I think something else made him high. I don't know. He also one day told us, he said, first of all, I don't like to eat. I don't see why. It's just a bother. And then he said, if I were to commit suicide, I'd do it this way. And then he told us some weird thing about taking overdosing on LSD and like laying on a waterbed. He told us to high school kids. It was preposterous. I mean, how could you'd never get away with it? My wife says, I got the only guy from Seattle that's not a stoner. That's funny. I'm going to put that on the screen because it's just funny. I know it'd be a lot better because I'm sort of high strung, and you'd think that like if I was a stoner, I could be, you know, a lot more chill. She's right about that. And Matt Wright is in the chat room. So that guy seemed cool, but then he expressed his disgust with Boy George. Right. Exactly. We won't name any names on that guy. So it's good to have a chat room that can, kind of back me up on this stuff. The one thing that I did in Mr. Evans' class that was, I remember to this day, was we had demonstration speeches in there, and you were supposed to demonstrate something. And he was such a cool guy. You know, he would have us do creative writing things, and then he would read them to us. He'd read everybody's creative writing things. It was really fun. But this day we had to do demonstration speeches. I don't know, it was probably something on the curriculum that he had to do. And I thought, well, I got to do something really interesting. And like I've said before, my dad was an artist. So I went to my dad and said, what should I do a demonstration speech on? And he said, you should do the tap and die process. And I was like, Dad, what's the tap and die process? I have no idea. And he said, well, if you need to thread a rod, this is how you do it. And I don't know what threading a rod is, did not know then, and didn't ask. I guess I was not very inquisitive. So my dad showed me, he had all these tools and anvils and all this stuff, and showed me how to thread a rod. And so I went to class with all that stuff. And that was going to be my demonstration speech. And I didn't know that it was going to be, I don't know. I thought it was I had to do something complicated because, you know, Matt Kite got up there and he just drew like 2 pieces of bread on the chalkboard. Didn't even bring them. He showed us how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And he just said, you know, you put the peanut butter here and then you put the jelly here. And that was his demonstration. It's Steve Bludoff showed us how to play Defender. He drew like a controller on the board and then some buttons. And then he was just like, hyperspace, hyperspace, hyperspace the whole time. And then I got up there with my tap and die process. It looked like a box from the museum or something of these ancient tools. And so I started doing the tap and die process. But you ever try and show something in a big room to a lot of people and you just don't know what you're doing and you lose all confidence in yourself and you don't even believe what's coming out of your mouth and you're not even sure it's the truth at all. So that's what happened to me. And I started just shaking like I was dying. It was like a death rattle shake. And I was shaking and I was trying to do the tap and die process and I was sweating. And none of this was happening because I couldn't put the tap and the die and the da-da-da-da. And I got so freaked out. And finally, Mr. Evans was like, okay, that's enough. Does anybody have any questions? And so I'm looking around the room, and Steve Bludoff raises his hand. He says, yeah, I got a question. Were you playing the piano up there? To this day, I don't know what that means. I don't know whether he's saying, were you doing something very complicated like playing the piano? Or was he saying, I don't know what you were doing up there, so I'm just going to guess something random? Or was he saying, you seemed so nervous, it was as if you were trying to play the piano, which reminded me of when I was taking piano from Rick Steves, and we'd have a recital, and that was terrifying as well, especially when you didn't practice. I guess these are life lessons, right? These are life lessons. You should probably be prepared and practice. I don't know if I ever learned that. So now, the next thing that I'm going to do on this show is I'm going to give you a little bit of relief with some kissing. I know a lot of you are out there alone. You know, maybe you're quarantined without someone to kiss, without someone to hug, so you're in need of some kind of human contact, and I'm feeling sorry for you people, so I'm going to overwhelm you with some kissing. This is something I found. This is from a movie called When Calls the Heart, which is a fine film, I think. I have not seen it. But this is a compilation of all the kissing from the movie. And you could probably tell the whole plot of the movie just from the kissing. I mean, I don't know. These actors, I hope they got stunt pay for this, because this is kind of wild. So look at that. He's all reluctant. He's like, not today. No kissing today. Oh, they're back together again. Yep. Oh, she's asleep. Oh, she's just asleep. I don't know why she's asleep. Oh, now they're getting really into it. There's a lot of open mouth kissing. I don't know if that's going to be happening anymore in the movies. She is beautiful. Weebly says she's beautiful. Both of these actors are very, very good-looking people. And this was on, I think, the Hallmark Channel. But I mean, I think somebody got pregnant in making this movie, and yeah, just from the kissing. Now look, he's like a Mountie. Oh, who was that? Does anybody know in the chat room who that was? I mean, so yeah, so I'm hoping that, if you're missing kissing and all this will like give you a boost. I just want to skip to the end so you can, you can watch this movie on your own. But, When Calls the Heart. These are two awesome actors. Okay. Like I say, I hope they got stunt pay. I don't want to ruin it for you. I'm going to leave it off there. Yes. And for the that was Brooke Shields. Thank you. I thought that was familiar. I think that's why she was mad. She got kind of mad as it went along. I'm going to do one more thing here. Well, a couple more things. I'm running out of time. I want to do a segment. It's called Can I Remember That? Can I remember it? Reaching out into my feeble memory, trying to remember something from a long time ago. When I was a kid, I've said this before on the show, I'm a huge Steve Martin fan, obviously. He had the book, The Cruel Shoes, which was about, it was a bunch of poems. It was one of his first writing things, a bunch of poems. Hilarious. I think there was one called Cows in Trouble. My mom bought me the hardback cover. I put it on my bike. When I went into a bookstore, I came out, it was gone. Yeah, it's one of the great disappointments in my life. But I had remembered the poem, The Cruel Shoes. And I'm going to relate it to you now. From memory, we'll see if it's the same. So here we go. The Cruel Shoes. Anna knew she had to have a new pair of shoes. And Carlos had helped her try on every pair of shoes in the place. Well, that's it. There's no more shoes in the place. Oh, you must have one more pair. No. Unless, of course, you'd like to try the Cruel Shoes. Yes, let me try. But get them. Carlos disappeared into the back and reappeared with an ordinary shoebox. He opened the lid and pulled out a hideous pair of black and white pumps. But this was not an ordinary hideous pair of black and white pumps. Both were left feet. One had a right angle turn with separate compartments that twisted the toes in impossible directions. The other was 6 inches long and curved inward like a rocking chair, with a vise and razor blades to hold the foot in place. Well, you see, they're not fit for humans. Put them on me. But put them on me. Carlos knew all arguments were useless, and he knelt down before her and forced her feet into the shoes. The screams were incredible. I like them. Anna crawled over to the mirror and held her bloody feet up where she could see. She paid Carlos and went out onto the street. The following day, Carlos was overheard speaking to a new customer. Well, that's it. That's every pair of shoes in the place. Unless, of course, you'd like to try the Cruel Shoes. That's my reading today from The Cruel Shoes, or recitation. I don't know. I hope you've enjoyed today's laugh therapy. It's great. We had a lot of people in the chat room. That's always fun. We're here at noon every day on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook. And today the internet was not horrible. We're going to go out today on Paul Simon and Edie Brickell, something they put out on the web just the other day, just to raise our spirits. And here we go.
Last night I cried myself to sleep for the love that makes me weak. I dried my eyes to greet the day and wondered why today. I wonder if I care as much as I did before. The tears that I've shed by day didn't even wash away the memory of the night before. I wonder if I suffer more. I